Good day again, everyone. Welcome to part 2 of the lecture series on drug elimination and hepatic clearance. In this presentation, I will cover the topics of drug interaction up to biliary excretion. To start the discussion, let's examine the daily interaction of the most well-known medication. So your statins, no, such as your lovastatins. So the drug lovastatin, it lowers your cholesterol level. So they are given to lower your cholesterol level. So anti-dyslipidemia itong lovastatins, your statins. The liver primarily breaks down lovastatin into two byproducts, the 6-hydroxylovastatin and 6-hexamethylene lovastatin. So the breakdown of lovastatin happens through a process called hydroxylation, a phase one reaction that relies on an enzyme called CYP3A. Again, CYP3A is a cytochrome P450 isozymes. When you take other drugs like ketoconazole or cyclosporine, they can slow down or inhibit your CYP3A, meaning lovastatin's breakdown slows as well. This can cause drug-drug interaction where one drug affects how another is processed in the body. So kapag ininom mo no, si lovastatin, ininom mo together with cyclosporine, ketoconazole or celiandamycin, tsaka itong tatlong to, no, itong best friend na ito, they are your CYP3A inhibitors. Okay, they are your CYP3 inhibitors. So, kapag inhibitor sila ng CYP3A, hindi makakapag-function si CYP3A na i-metabolize si lovastatin. So, si lovastatin, hindi siya mabe-breakdown, hindi siya mag-undergo ng hydroxylation. So, pwede itong mag-cause ng lovastatin toxicity. So, aside from enzyme inhibition, pwede rin naman itong tatlong to, pwede silang makialam sa efflux transporter sa liver. For instance, your cyclosporine, no, they can have a significant effect on lovastatin's metabolism because it inhibits both the CYP3A and an efflux transporter in the liver. So an efflux transporter helps remove drug from the cell. So when it's inhibited, the drug stays longer in the liver, affecting how much is metabolized. So mga kontrabida sila sa buhay ni lovastatin, itong tatlo. For example, people may respond to drug differently based on genetics, which may determine if they are responders or non-responders to a treatment. Taking care of this kind of drug interaction, especially when transporters and enzymes are involved, needs a systems biology approach that looks at how all the parts of the body drugs processing system work together, including the pharmacogenetics, how genes affect the drug response. This is because drug interactions aren't just one process, but different processes like transporters, enzyme, and drug pathways, and they can cause drug-drug interaction. Finally, in complex drug interactions such as those involved in the lovastatin and cyclosporine, we may utilize kinetic models to comprehend the duration of drug retention in the body, particularly in the plasma. A drug-drug interaction can happen when lovastatin and cyclosporine are taken together because cyclosporine stops the CYP3 enzymes and the efflux transporter in the liver, which makes it harder to lovastatin to break down. So, very kontrabida itong si cyclosporine kay lovastatin. Ayaw niyang ipalabas sa katawan. Metabolism is all about how our body handles the drug as we take, and it can vary a lot from one person to another. This variation happens for two main reasons. Bakit nga ba nagkakaiba-iba? Ang reaction ng drug kay Juan ay iba kay Mario. Okay? It's because of our genes and our environment. Pharmacogenetics is a field that explores how our genetic makeup affects how we respond to medication. So for instance, when it comes to the drug isoniazid, yung in-explain ko kanina, yung example ka kanina, some people break it down quickly. These are known rapid acetylators, while others take their time, referred to as slow acetylators or slow inactivators. Those who process it slowly might experience more side effects, like neurotoxicity. This genetic difference, known as genetic polymorphism, isn't just limited to isoniazid, it also applies to drugs like procainamide, hydralazine. Another example is a condition which is your glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase deficiency or your G6PD, which affects about 10% of African Americans and can alter how certain drugs are processed. Later, I will explain how this G6PD affects the metabolism of the drug. With phenytoin, research shows that some individuals, now called poor metabolizers, break it down more slowly, which can lead to a greater risk of side effects. This is particularly noticeable among different population with about 16% of Japan people being poor metabolizers to only 4% of Caucasians, mga puti. But it's not just genetics that plays a role. 'Di ba kanina nga dalawa sila, 'di ba? Genetic and environmental. So, how environmental factors come into play? Example, the smoking. Smoking can speed up how you break down theophylline because the chemical in cigarettes encourage faster metabolism. Interestingly, children tend to metabolize theophylline quicker than adults. Additionally, substances like phenobarbital and pollutants such as benzpyrene can ramp up liver enzymes activity, allowing for quicker drug processing. On the flip side, certain drugs like carbon monoxide and medications like cimetidine can slow down these enzymes, which means drugs like phenytoin and theophylline might linger in the bloodstream longer than expected. Finally, our individual characteristics such as your age, gender, diet, and overall health also plays a significant role in how your body metabolizes drugs. Okay, we will have just a quick review, no, how your G6PD deficiency affects the metabolism of the drug. Okay, remember that G6PD is an enzyme that involves in so many biochemical reaction in the body, especially involves in your pentose pathway, pentose PPP, the PPP pathway that can this PPP pathway will produce your NAD. Ito mention natin kanina, the reduced NAD. Okay, and many more. Marami pa yung napoproduce niya. So, NAD muna tayo. Itong NAD, di ba, if you remember the cycle kanina na gumagamit ng NAD, di ba kailangan siya para ma-reduce yung enzyme. Kasi yung reduced enzyme yung magagamit as your or active in metabolism. Okay, again, itong enzyme na G6PD, the dehydrogenase, involved in many biochemical pathway. And example na ang inyuhang pentose phosphate pathway. Okay? So, isa sa mga product ng pentose phosphate pathway are your reduced NAD. And these reduced NAD are being used in the metabolism of the drug. Example, yung chloramphenicol. Chloramphenicol are contraindicated or must not be given to patients who are G6PD deficient. Again, kung sinasabi natin G6PD deficient, hindi gumagana itong G6PD. So, lahat ng biochemical pathway na gumagamit ng enzyme na ito, hindi gumagana. Hindi naman lahat ng NAD mo ay galing sa G6PD pathway. Hindi. Pero most of them came from the reaction catalyzed by this enzyme. So, kapag wala kang enzyme na ito, deficit ka, so meaning, mababa rin yung nagagawa mong NAD. Okay? At saka itong chloramphenicol, kapag ininom mo to, para malabas siya sa katawan, kailangan niya ng NAD. Pero, in the patient na mga G6PD deficit, meron silang NAD pero kakaunti lang. Remember, hindi lang naman yung metabolism ng chloramphenicol ang nangangailangan ng NAD. Marami pang iba sa ating katawan. So, kapag umiinom ka ng chloramphenicol or any substance na contraindicated or bawal sa may G6PD deficiency, mag-accumulate itong chloramphenicol or yung mothballs, no? Example yan, mothballs, na kailangan ng NAD. Kasi nga walang NAD, so the reaction para maalis or ma-metabolize itong chloroform or yung mothballs, hindi nangyayari. So, walang metabolism na nangyayari. Meaning, nag-a-accumulate siya sa katawan. Kapag nag-a-accumulate sa katawan, mas lumalala yung toxic effect. So, instead na magamot, for example, chloramphenicol, antibiotic, instead na magamot yung bacterial infection, hindi mo na nararamdaman kasi mas nararamdaman mo yung toxic effect ng chloramphenicol. For example, you can have hemolysis. Kasi nga, nasira yung mga red blood cells mo dahil sa toxicity ng chloramphenicol or mothballs. No? So, ito yung significance, no, of the different condition and how they affect the metabolism and then the toxic effect of the drug product. Another factor that affect drug interaction are the genetic variations of your CYP450. One of the main reasons people process drug differently is due to a group of enzymes in the liver called your CYP450 enzymes or your CYP enzymes. These enzymes help break down medications in the body, but they come in many forms because of genetic differences, which means some people process certain drugs faster or slower than the others. The CYP enzymes are grouped into families and subfamilies based on their structure. Each enzyme has a name that starts with CYP, followed by the numbers or letter, which indicates which family and subfamily it belongs. CYP enzymes handle different drugs. For example, CYP1A2 helps break down caffeine. CYP2D6 processes drugs like codeine and other antidepressants. The CYP2A family is especially important because it processes a wide variety of substances, including your hormones like the testosterone and medications like lovastatin, mentioned earlier, and midazolam, a sedative. There are at least 8 CYP families in humans, but families 1 to 3 are the one most involved in breaking down common drugs. The levels and activity of CYP enzymes vary from person to person depending on both genetic and environmental factors as mentioned. People can be extensive metabolizers, means they process certain drugs quickly, or poor metabolizers, meaning they process them slowly. For people, some people due to genetic difference are poor metabolizer of drug called dibrisukine, which is a commonly used to study how well CYP2D6 works. If you are a poor metabolizers of CYP2D6, you may have higher levels of certain drugs such as codeine or some antidepressants, leading to a higher risk of side effects. Sometimes doctors use a marker drug like antipyrine or dextromethorphan to test how well your liver breaks down drugs, which helps them understand if your body will handle medications differently than others. Important is you have to recognize, because recognizing these differences is essential, especially for treatments like cancer therapy. Um, we're not If you are not well versed or you cannot recognize the differences, the adjustment of those is difficult, and it can lead to much toxicity or ineffective treatment. The way our body processes medication can change a lot based on what we eat, other medication we take, or even our lifestyle choices. So here's how it works. So some substances can make our drug processing enzyme work faster, so what we call enzyme induction. This can lead to drugs breakdown more quickly, which may make them less effective. However, it takes a bit of time to for this to happen. Here are some examples. Rifampicin, an antibiotic, can boost enzyme activity in just a couple of days. However, the phenobarbital takes about a week to speed things up. Carbamazepine may take up to months for full effect. Smoking can also increase the breakdown of certain drugs, like some antidepressants, because of the chemicals in cigarettes. So those mentioned drug substance or chemicals are what we call enzyme inducers. They speed up the process of metabolism. Okay? Meaning, kapag ininom mo ito sa gamot na substrate rin ng enzyme, okay, for example, CYP3A4, tsaka uminom ka ng rifampicin, the drugs the drugs that are substrate of CYP3A4 are quickly, okay, excreted in the body kasi nga binuboost mo yung activity ng enzyme. Instead na isang oras pa siya makiklear sa body, pero uminom ka nung na-mention na gamot ng rifampicin, phenobarbital, na papabilis yung pag-clear niya. Parang pinainom mo ng kape yung enzyme para mas mabilis yung trabaho. Parang ganon yung um, kinalabasan. So, on the other hand, some substances slow down these enzymes, or what we call enzyme inhibition or inhibitors, causing drugs to stay in the body longer. This can lead to higher levels of a drug, increasing the chance of side effects. For example, certain antidepressants like fluoxetine and SSRI slow down the enzyme CYP2D6. This means other drugs taken alongside with fluoxetine might build up in the body and have stronger effect. Okay, so gawa tayo ng example ng inhibitor. Okay, for example lang, uminom ako ng cimetidine kasama ni warfarin. Okay, at saka si cimetidine, isa siyang inhibitor, enzyme inhibitor. So, for example, si cimetidine, inhibit niya si CYP2A6, for example lang, 2A6. At saka si CYP2A6, substrate niya si warfarin, meaning kailangan si CYP2A6 para metabolize si warfarin, para ma-excrete in the body. Para mapalabas, no? Para ma-excrete in the body. Pero nga, uminom ka ng cimetidine. Ang gagawin ni si cimetidine, ibablock niya si enzyme. So, anong mangyayari kapag mablock si enzyme? Walang enzyme na inactivate kay warfarin. So, mangyayari, magsistay si warfarin sa blood. Okay? Increase ang kanyang concentration in the blood. So, kapag increase ang concentration niya sa blood, mas marami or mas mag-i-exert ang toxic effect ni warfarin. So, dito naman tayo sa inducers, meaning binuboost or pinapadali nila yung metabolism ng gamot. For example, rifampin. Uminom ka ng rifampin. Tsaka, uminom ka rin ng methadone. Okay? An opiate. Hindi mo alam. May TB ka. Tapos, na-challenge ka na administer ng mga opiate drugs, no? Yung mga nakaka-addict. Okay? The methadone. So, anong mangyayari? So, itong rifampin, inducer siya ng CYP. So, kung inducer ng CYP, pinapabilis niya. So, parang binuboost niya. Instead na 1 oras or 2 oras pa bago ma-metabolize yung methadone, bago mawala sa katawan, pinapa-fast niya. No? Maybe half an hour ma-metabolize na si methadone. So, mas increase yung excretion niya. Mas madali siyang malabas sa katawan. Kaya nagpamanifest ng opiate withdrawal. So, aside from drug-drug interaction, our diet also plays a role important in drug metabolism. Example, high-protein diets can speed up how quickly some drugs such as theophylline are cleared from the body. With high-carb diet naman, high-carb diet, it slows things down. Tsaka, the very popular grapefruit juice. No? Ito yung pinaka-common na example talaga when talking about drug diet or drug food interaction. Because this grapefruit juice is especially impactful because it contains a compound called naringin or naringin. This naringin blocks the enzyme CYP3A4, and this CYP3A4 usually breaks down certain drugs like sakinavir, which is used to treat HIV. By slowing down this enzyme, grapefruit juice can make drug last longer to be stronger in effect, which can increase the risk of side effects. Other foods also, such as your glucose or low in fatty acids, can affect how quickly the drug are processed. So in real life, no, grapefruit juice can increase the level of several drugs in the body, such as some sedatives and blood thinners. This could be risky if it leads to too high concentration of the drug. Other medication that increase in potency with grapefruit juice include some sedatives and blood thinners. And nandiyan, no, naka-reflect sa table. Since food, medication, and habits like smoking can have such a strong impact on how drug works, it is good idea to talk with your healthcare provider about your diet and lifestyle when starting a new medication. Kaya nga, sa during consultation, tinatanong sa history ang diet because it may affect, no, the drugs that you are prescribed with. So, kapag ikaw, mahilig ka talaga uminom ng grape juice kasi paborito mo yan. So, alam na ng provider na, okay, mahilig ka pala ng grape juice, tsaka itong gamot na to are inhibitors ang grapefruit juice are inhibitors ng enzyme na mag-metabolize sa ipe-prescribe ko na gamot. So, instead na 100 mg, gagawin ko na lang 50 mg. So, yun. ang example of how your diet may affect the drug dosing. Here are cytochrome isoforms or IO2 enzymes with the example of drugs that they are metabolizing or their substrate. Many drugs can speed up the activity of certain enzymes, especially the cytochrome enzymes. This increase the activity or the increase in activity can change how quickly the drugs or other drugs are broken down in the body. Some drugs boost the activity of enzymes either for themselves. That's why we have what we call the autoinduction. Or for other drugs to measure these, doctors or researchers check enzymes activity level before and after taking the drug for a certain period. This helps them know how strong the effect is. So, meaning merong mga gamot na mas pinapabilis nila yung metabolism ng sarili nila. Okay? That's what we call autoinduction. Over time, the amount of these enzymes in the body can increase depending on how much of the drug you take. For example, carbamazepine is a drug that gradually increases its own breakdown rate over time as it boosts enzyme levels. So, kapag umiinom, meron kasing mga gamot na kapag palagi mo silang iniinom, okay, mas mas nai-introduce siya sa katawan, and then your enzyme that are enzyme that metabolizing that drug can speed up. Okay? Para bang kung sa layman's term, yung tinatawag nila na nanganad nakaana nga tambal. So, di na siya mo effect kung inana because it speeds up the breakdown over time. Kapag umiinom ka niya ng palagi, murag gaanad imong enzyme. So, carbamazepine na po, sige, paspaso na ito breakdown, ana. So, muna siya ang sum of the effect of the drugs in the metabolism. Also, before new drugs are approved, they're tested to see if they interact with common CYP enzymes, as this interaction can affect safety or effectiveness of drug. If two drugs use the same CYP enzyme pathway, taking them together can lead to issue. Some example of these enzymes are some of these enzymes and drugs are your CYP3A4, which metabolizes your midazolam, simvastatin, lovastatin. Your CYP1A2, ito naman sila nag-metabolize ng euphyline. Okay? So, for example, CYP3A4, alam mo na yung mga minimetabolize niya are midazolam, simvastatin, lovastatin. So, wag kang uminom ng mga inhibitors ng CYP3A4 or wag mong ayaw idungan o inom ang mga inhibitors or inducer of CYP3A4. Okay? Also, the liver is where most drug breakdown happens. So, thanks to your enzyme CYP3A4, which also works in the gut, not just in the liver, no? Scientists use liver microsomes to study how drugs are metabolized. This can be stored and used in labs for testing, and even lab-made version of these enzymes called urocombinant enzymes can confirm results. When studying the drug breakdown, researchers look at things like your area under the curve, which measures the overall drug exposure over time. The Cmax, no, the maximum concentration, which is the highest concentration of the drug in the blood. The Tmax, the time it takes to reach the Cmax. Other important factors include how long the drug stays in the body, which is what we call the half-life, and how quickly it cleared out, or the clearance. Testing enzyme induction in the body is often more reliable than lab result because real-life factors influence how drugs interact. So, how often a drug is taken, there are short-term or acute or long-term or chronic use can affect metabolism. Example ani ang inyuhang smoking. Okay. Smoking can either be inducer or inhibitor. Depende kung you are a short-term user or a chronic user. Because if you are just a occasional smoker, no, kung occasional smoker lang ka, then smoking or the chemical present in your cigarette is just an enzyme inhibitor. Okay? Inhibitor ang smoking if you are just an occasional smoker. However, if you're a chronic smoker, the enzyme or the chemicals present, okay, can cause fast metabolism because mahimo na siyang enzyme enhancer or enzyme inducer. Okay? Again, kung kwan lang ka, occasional lang ka nga smoker, ang katong cigarette, chemical sa cigarette, is inhibitor. Pero kung chronic smoker ka, mahimo na din siyang inducer. Also, some drugs have a narrow therapeutic range, meaning small changes in levels can cause big effects. And it is important to make sure both drugs are at typical level to get real result. In short, knowing how drugs and enzyme interacts helps you in the future predicts how different combination may impact drug effectiveness or risk of side effects. Drug transporters, which are proteins that move drugs in and out of the cells, play a big role in how drug works in the body. These transporters can be influenced by other drugs, either speeding up or slowing down how they move drugs around. Here's a more explanation. So there are key transport proteins in the body. We already discussed this. Your PGP, the best known transporter, which often helps pump drugs out of the cell, and other transporters, including your organic anion transporters, organic cation transporters, your multi-drug resistant proteins, your breast cancer resistant proteins. So each has its own set of drugs it interacts with. So some drugs can affect this transporter by either blocking or boosting their activity. For example, digoxin and quinidine. Okay, if you combine these two medication, quinidine blocks the PGP, which normally helps clear digoxin from the body. So, since you block the PGP, it leads to higher level of digoxin. Another example, fexofenadine and ketoconazole or erythromycin. These drugs can block PGP, causing the fexofenadine to stay in the body longer and cause again toxic effect. Another, penicillin and probenecid. Okay, this probenecid slows the removal of penicillin, making penicillin more effective for a longer period. Kasi ito yung drug interaction na desirable. Okay, yung effect nila is more beneficial than harmful. Si penicillin kasi, nature niya is they are very easily, no, mas madali silang naaalis or nai-excrete sa katawan. So kapag mas madali silang nai-excrete sa katawan kasi nga water soluble sila, so palagi kang umiinom. The frequency of dosing is increased. Pero nakita nila na kapag ininom mo si penicillin together with your probenecid, hindi na madaling makiklear or ma-excrete si penicillin. So, magsistay longer si penicillin sa katawan because probenecid will block the transport of your penicillin out in the body. Another example, dofetilide and cimetidine. So, cimetidine blocks transporter that would normally remove dofetilide, potentially leading to higher levels of the drug and toxic effect. Okay? And also, it affects the liver. The liver uses transporters also, remember, to control drug levels in and out of the cells and to prepare drugs for removal from the body. Changes in transporter activity can affect drug clearance. Di ba nasabi natin kanina dun sa mga sinusoids, maraming mga transporter doon. So remember that sinusoids are one of its function is to remove the substances from the blood. In the liver, transporters like PGP and OWATs help move drug in and out. If these transporters are blocked, drugs can build up in the liver, sometimes causing high local concentration and even liver toxicity. Why it matters? Bakit importante nating malaman kung anong mga transporters ang meron at saka anong mga drugs na nag-a-act at anong effect nila sa transporter? It's because we need to understand the drug interaction and liver toxicity. Certain drug combination can lead to very high drug levels in the blood. For example, if a drug blocks PGP and another drug uses it to clear out, the second drug may reach toxic level causing serious side effects. Also, high levels in the liver can lead to toxicity if drug build up and don't get cleared out properly. So knowing about transporter helps predict possible drug interaction, ensuring that drugs are safe and effective when using together. So pharmacists, you in the future, and doctors monitor this interaction to avoid potential side effects and adjust drug doses as needed. Now let's move on to the first pass effect. Okay, the way a drug is given can really change how quickly and effectively it works in your body. So there are different ways to take the medication, as you know, diba? The parenteral, transdermal, or inhalation are the most common or popular route of administration is the oral administration. When a drug is given through injection or parenteral, or applied in the skin or inhaled, it can enter the bloodstream directly or be distributed throughout the body before the liver gets a chance to break it down. This can lead to quicker effects since the drug doesn't have to pass through the liver first. So, parenterals does not have first pass effect. Then, pero in most oral administration, the most commonly known drugs are taken by mouth. When you swallow a pill, the drug gets absorbed in the small intestine, particularly in a part called your duodenum. From there, it travels through blood vessels to the liver via hepatic portal vein. Only after the liver processes it does the drug enter the general circulation to affect the rest of your body. So, yon. I already explained what is first pass effect. So first pass effect, the liver can break down many drugs very quickly. So when a drug is taken orally, it might be heavily metabolized by the liver or by cells in the intestine before it can reach the bloodstream. This is known as the first pass effect or pre-systemic elimination. Because of this effect, some drugs may work well or may may not work well or not at all because too much of the active ingredients is lost before it can do its job, no, because before it can reaches the biophase. Understanding how the route of administration affect drug metabolism is crucial for choosing the right way to give medications. For drugs that are significantly metabolized in the liver, doctors might prefer a different route to ensure that enough of the drug gets into the bloodstream to be effective. The first pass effect can be noticed when there are lower amounts of active drugs in the bloodstream after taking it by mouth compared to getting it through an IV. Okay, so to illustrate more, to compare the methods, no, when you take a drug orally, the concentration of the unchanged drug in your blood is often lower than when you receive the same through an IV. This means that the total exposure of the drug is less after oral administration. If you see the drug in the liver's portal vein, but not in the general bloodstream, it suggests that the liver is breaking down the drug before it can enter the rest of the body. So it also affects the bioavailability. Diba? Bioavailability measures how much of the drug actually reaches your bloodstream. So for drugs that are fully absorbed and stable in your stomach, the bioavailability after oral intake should match that after an IV dose. If bioavailability, or the F, is less than 1, it indicates that the drug is getting significantly broken down by the liver before it can be used by your body. So if the F, or the bioavailability, is less than 1 in value, meaning that it undergone first pass effect or pre-metabolism. Some drugs like propranolol, morphine, and nitroglycerin have a bioavailability less than 1 because they experience a strong first pass effect. So if you notice the drug taken by mouth isn't as effective as when it's given through IV, it could be due to the first pass effect, where the liver breaks down much of the drug before it can work in your body. However, first pass effect isn't the only reason a drug might have a slow bioavailability. To get a clearer picture of how much of the drug is removed with the liver after taking it orally, we sometimes call the liver extraction ratio. Okay? Meron tayong player, not just the first pass effect. Meron tayong tinatawag na liver extraction ratio. So, liver extraction ratio measures how much of the drug is removed by the liver after it enters. It's calculated using the concentration of the drug in the blood before it enters the liver. Okay. So, this is the liver extraction ratio. So, we have here the CA, or the concentration of the drug in the blood before it enters the liver. So, wala pa nakasulod sa liver ang imuhang blood. Then, the concentration of the drug in the blood after it leaves the liver. So, concentration, no? Pila na lang ang nabilin sa imuhang tambal after siya nilabay sa liver. This is before and this is after. Okay? So, this equation estimates, no, how much of the drug remain in the or extracted by your liver. For example, naa kay 150 milligram before, then paglabay nimo sa liver, nahimo na lang 50 milligram. So kung imo nang subtract, you can say nga na ay 100 milligram nga nabilin or na-extract sa imuhang liver. Okay, that's your liver extraction. Example, your propranolol, no? The extraction ratio is about 0.7, meaning around 70% of the drug is removed by the liver before it can be used by the body. When a drug is given intravenously, it usually travels through the bloodstream before reaching the liver. So, less of it is broken down in the liver on the first pass. So the ER, or the extraction ratio, okay, can range from 0, meaning none of the drug is removed, to 1, meaning all the drug is removed. Okay? So iyahang ratio lang is 0 to 1. An extraction ratio of 0.25 indicates that 25% of the drug is removed by the liver. If you know both the extraction ratio and the blood flow of the liver, showing this equation, okay, that's one. If you know the extraction ratio and Q denotes the blood flow, you can calculate how effectively the liver clears the drug using this formula. Okay? So, kaning formula, you can calculate, no, how effective the liver clears the drug. In short, the liver extraction ratio help us understand how much of the drug is cleared by the liver after it's taken orally. It's more precise measure than just looking at the bioavailability, and it shows how effective the liver is at processing the drug before it can work in the body. Also, the liver extraction ratio helps measure how much of an orally taken drug is processed by the liver. However, getting example from the liver is tricky and most done in animals, which means the ER values or extraction values found in animals may not match those in humans. So to understand the ER and bioavailability, focus on this formula where the F here, this one, the F is the bioavailability. This is the bioavailability. ER is the liver extraction, and this one are other processes other than liver extraction. So that might reduce the drug level before it enters the bloodstream. F is how much of the drug actually gets into the circulation, ng bioavailability. If we assume there's no significant loss of the drug from other processes like breaking down the stomach or being absorbed, we can simplify this to this one. Meaning, nag-assume ka nga wala other factor than the liver extraction nga naka-apekto sa bioavailability, kani nga equation na tong gamiton. By using the area under the curve for drug concentration, we can estimate the liver extraction, this one. If you use naman the area under the curve to estimate the drug concentration or the drug that are being extracted, pwede sad. So this equation gives us this one. This equation gives a rough idea of how much the liver extract from the drug taken orally. So there are several factors affecting the ER, no, or liver extraction ratio, like your drug dose, how it's made, the patient health condition. So it can affect the ER. Then the importance of knowing your ER, it helps determine how much of the drug should be given orally compared to intravenously. For instance, propranolol needs a much larger dose than IV dose to achieve similar blood level because the liver processes a lot of it when taken by mouth. Since blood flow to the liver can affect how much of the drug is extracted, giving drugs that are heavily processed by the liver can lead to unpredictable drug levels in the bloodstream. Therefore, careful testing is necessary when creating oral forms of these drugs. So the liver extraction ratio helps us understand how much of an orally taken drug is processed by the liver. While it's useful to figuring out proper doses, various factors can impact its accuracy. This information is very crucial for ensuring patients receiving the correct amount of medication. If you have higher value of ER, liver extraction ratio, you would expect that you have lesser bioavailability. Because daghan man ang nabilin sa liver kaysa makalusot. Okay? So that's the relationship about liver extraction and bioavailability. Again, if you have high ER extraction ratio, meaning daghan ang nabilin, no? Nabilin pa ingon gikan sa daghan nabilin nga tambal, okay? After entering, daghan nabilin sa liver, daghan ang na-extract sa liver. So, gamay lang imuhang tambal nga naa sa bloodstream. So, meaning gamay lang imong bioavailability. So, aside from the liver extraction ratio, blood flow also plays an important role. Okay, blood flow to the liver is crucial in determining how much of an orally taken drug is metabolized and how much of it is actually gets into the bloodstream. Changes in blood flow can significantly affect how much drug is processed by the liver. So what are the impact of blood flow? So blood flow to the liver affects the metabolism of the drug taken orally by changing, okay, the amount of drugs reaches. Then there is a formula that relates blood flow, liver clearance, and how much drug is available. So in this equation, okay, you can estimate, okay, how quickly the liver clears the drug, and the Q there is the blood flow of the liver. This is the blood flow, and this is this one. Um, this shows how quick the liver clears the drug. So on average, the effective blood flow to the liver is about 1.5 liters per minute, but it can vary based on factors such as diet and physical activity. For drug propexifene, researchers found that about 35% of the drug is absorbed into the bloodstream after passing through the liver, which matches expected value of similar drugs. First pass effect is significant for drugs that are heavily processed by the liver. Drugs with low extraction ratios like euphyline have almost complete absorption after oral intake. However, drugs with high extraction ratios like nitroglycerides, they have poor bioavailability when taken orally. This means higher oral doses are needed compared to intravenous doses to achieve the same effect. The drugs with high first pass elimination, alternative method of administration may be used. For instance, nitroglycerin can be taken under the mouth or sublingual route of administration, or it can be used topically to avoid heavy process by liver. If an oral drug takes a long time to dissolve or be absorbed, more of it may be metabolized before it can enter the bloodstream. This can lead to greater variability in how much drug is available in different people. So while equation seems straightforward, estimating bioavailability is complicated. Changes in blood flow can influence both how quickly the liver clears drug and how much of the drug is available. So blood flow to the liver is key to understanding how much of an orally drug gets into the body. Different drugs are affected in different ways, and factors like blood flow, absorption rate, and the method of administration can all play a significant role. In cases where oral administration is poor due to liver metabolism, alternative routes or larger doses may be necessary. So, at this juncture, we will discuss the relationship between the blood flow, intrinsic clearance, and hepatic clearance. So, while the equation used to estimate how liver flow affects the bioavailability seems straightforward, the reality is more complex. So, there are some points to understand how those factors mentioned, the blood flow and the clearance, affects the bioavailability. So there are several things influence how quickly a drug is cleared from the liver, including the blood flow of the liver or the blood flow to the liver. More blood flow means more drug can be processed, while less blood flow can slow down metabolism. Then we also have intrinsic clearance. This refers to how well the liver can process the drug based on its chemical properties. And don't forget your protein binding. If a lot of drug is bound to proteins in the blood, less of it's available for the liver to metabolize. Because remember, they cannot pass through into your sinusoids. Your sinusoids has only very small um, pores, whereas your proteins are very large. So since your drugs are bound to your proteins, they cannot pass through, they cannot be metabolized. And how your blood flow impacts, no, the clearance. When liver blood flow increases, it can bring enough drug to the liver to speed up metabolism. On the other hand, if blood flow decreases, less drug may reach the liver, slowing down how quickly it gets metabolized. So, um, the metabolism depends also on your blood flow changes. Again, if there is an increase in blood flow, marami yung dugo na dumadaloy papunta sa liver, then if that drug, especially those high extraction ratio, then must speed up yung metabolism. The rate at which the liver clears drug is generally calculated using data from plasma rather than the whole blood. This is important because the presence of red blood cells can affect how drug distributes and metabolizes. So, estimating how liver blood flow affects drug availability is complicated. Factors like blood flow, how well the liver processes the drug, how much the drug is bound to proteins, all play a role. Changes in blood flow can either speed up or slow down drug metabolisms. And the way we measure drug clearance is typically focused on plasma rather than the whole blood. So, example, some drugs like isoproterenol, lidocaine, and nitroglycerines, they are cleared from the body very quick, no? They are cleared from the body quickly by the liver because they have a high extraction ratio. They have greater than 0.7. This means that the liver removes this drug most as fast as blood flows through it. When blood flow to the liver increases, the rate at which these drugs are removed also increases. However, some drugs like propranolol can reduce blood flow to the liver by lowering the heart's output. When this happens, propranolol reduces its own clearance from the liver when taken orally. So remember, no, propranolol, they slow down your heart rate. And remember that cardiac output is product of your heart rate and SV. So if you have low heart rate, then low cardiac output and low blood supply to the liver, then there is also a low clearance or metabolism of the drug. Intrinsic clearance is a measure of the liver's ability to metabolize a drug without considering the blood flow. It reflects how well the liver enzymes can process the drug. Each drug has its own intrinsic clearance value, indicating how effectively it can be metabolized by the liver. Hepatic clearance combined with both blood flow and intrinsic clearance to describe how a drug is eliminated from the body. The relationship is expressed in the specific equation that shows how these factors work together to determine how quickly a drug is cleared from the liver. When blood flow to the liver stays constant, The liver's ability to clear a drug is simply the result of blood flow and the extraction ratio. However, the liver's clearance of a drug isn't always the same. It changes with blood flow and drug intrinsic clearance. For drugs that have low extraction ratio like theophylline, phenylbutazone, and procainamide, liver clearance isn't greatly affected by blood flow. Instead, it relies more on how well the liver enzymes work. So understanding how these factors interact helps estimate drug clearance when changes occur due to health conditions or other factors. For instance, smoking. As mentioned earlier, smoking can boost how effectively the liver processes many drugs. Changes in the liver enzymes activity or how the liver secretes bile can impact intrinsic clearance and therefore how quickly drugs are removed from the body. Drugs with low extraction ratios that are mainly broken down in the liver can have widely varying elimination half-lives. For example, elimination half-life of theophylline can range from 3 to 9 hours, likely due to genetic differences in how people's liver enzymes work. Other factors like age, nutrition, and health condition can also influence these half-lives. Clearance can also be described as the rate at which a drug is removed from the body divided by the concentration of the drug in the blood. Since the rate of removal is generally the same as the rate of drug metabolism in the liver, the relationship can be expressed using liver clearance and concentration of drug entering the liver. So that's how the relationship of blood flow, intrinsic clearance, and hepatic clearance. Now let's move on the in the topic of hepatic clearance of a protein-bound drug, the restrictive and non-restrictive clearance from binding. In general, drugs that are bound to proteins in the blood are not easily metabolized while free or they are unbound. Drugs can be processed more readily in the liver if they are unbound or free. Protein-bound drugs cannot easily pass through cell membranes, while free drugs can access the liver enzymes for metabolism. So when there is a more unbound drug in the blood, more of it can be extracted by the liver. So in this, to relate, if there are more, again, if there are more fraction of unbound drug, then it follows there are more of the drugs are being extracted from the liver. Most drugs are cleared from the body in a restrictive manner, meaning their clearance depends on the amount of unbound drug. Again, restrictive manner, they depends on the number or amount of drugs that are unbound. Only those unbound drugs can be cleared in the body. Example of these drugs include diazepam, warfarin, and quinidine. However, some drugs like propranolol and morphine, they are non-restrictively extracted by the liver, meaning that liver can clear them regardless of how much of the drug is bound to proteins, and changes in protein binding do not significantly affect their clearance. So, kahit pa nakabind sila or wala, liver can always clears them. Okay? That's our non-restrictively. Hindi sila strecto. Okay? The way they are um, cleared by the liver is not dependent on its binding to the protein. So the way protein binding affects drug clearance can be summarized by specific equation that found in your book. For restrictively clear drug, if the amount of drug is low compared to the liver's blood flow, the drug's clearance is affected both the fraction of unbound drug and the liver's ability to metabolize it. Again, if you have less fraction, again, of unbound drugs than your blood flow, okay, blood flow, to the liver, then you will expect lesser clearance. For drugs that are highly protein bound, which are more than 90%, displacing them from their binding site can significantly increase the concentration of free drug, leading to an increase in clearance. However, there are some exceptions where increasing binding to certain proteins can actually enhance the drug's concentration in the liver and boost its metabolism, even if overall protein binding increases. Wilkinson and Shand studied how changes in the liver's ability to clear drugs, or what we call the intrinsic clearance, and blood flow to the liver impact the drug levels in the blood over time after both intravenous and oral doses. Their finding shows that when intrinsic clearance and blood flow changes, they can affect how long it takes for the drug to be eliminated from the body, or the half-life. How much of the drug is broken down before reaching the bloodstream, or the first pass effect, and overall amount of drug available in the body. These effects are represented visually by the area under the curve and blood level time curve. Another study um, made by those scientists, no, they simulated how blood flow, liver clearance, and liver's ability to metabolize drug interact. They found that this relationship holds true if certain conditions are met, especially considering the role of transporters. For drugs with a low extraction ratio, no, the doubling of the intrinsic clearance from 0.167 to 0.334 liter per minute significantly increases both the extraction ratio and the drug's clearance, which reduces the elimination half-life by about 50%. So, if there are increase in extraction ratio, there will be increase in drug clearance. So, how it will affect your elimination of life? Since mas marami yung na-extract ng liver, mas marami ang na-metabolize, mas marami ang nakiklear, anong mangyayari sa time when the drug clears or reaches 50%? Is it increase or decrease? Correct. Elimination half-life will decrease. Meaning, mas madali na lang siyang mawala sa body. Okay? This means the drug is cleared from the body faster, resulting in lower overall concentrations after all oral administration. In contrast, for drugs with higher ER, doubling the intrinsic clearance from 13.7 to 27 liters per minute increases clearance but has a smaller impact in the half-life. Although there is still decrease in AUC, the half-life only changes slightly. Overall, drugs with low extraction ratios experience a significant decrease in half-life and increased liver enzyme activity, while those with high extraction ratios see little changes since their enzyme activity is already high. Higher extraction ratios leads to greater first pass effect, meaning more of the drug is metabolized before it enters the bloodstream. Drug clearance and how long a drug stays in the body are influenced by blood flow to the liver. For drugs with low extraction ratio of 0.1, if the blood flow decreases from the normal rate of 1.5 liter per minute to half that amount, the drug clearance only slightly decrease, resulting in slight higher blood level of drug. In contrast, for drugs with high extraction ratio with 0.9, reducing blood flow to half of normal significantly decreases clearance, causing much higher blood level of the drug. This means that changes in blood flow have an impact on how quickly high extraction ratio drugs, no, like your propranolol, are eliminated, while those low extraction ratio drugs, such as your theophylline, are not much affected. For low extraction ratio drugs, the liver can't remove all the drug present in the body, so changes in blood flow don't really affect how fast they're cleared. On the other hand, high extraction ratios drugs are removed quickly as they enter the liver, so if blood flow decreases, their elimination takes longer. Higher extraction ratio drugs are said to depend on blood flow to their clearance, for their clearance, and various drugs have been studied and categorized based on how much they are extracted by the liver. It can be challenging to measure how protein binding affects liver clearance because it's not always clear if a drug is cleared from the body in a restrictive or non-restrictive manner. For instance, levels of imipramine, which is non-restrictively cleared, vary based on how much of it is bound to plasma protein. Drugs with high extraction ratio, meaning they are removed from the blood quickly, are less affected by protein binding and are considered flow limited. In contrast, for drugs with low extraction ratios, protein binding can matter, depend on how much of the drug is bound. For drugs that are less than 75 to 80% protein bound, small changes in binding won't significantly impact liver clearance. These drugs are called capacity limited and binding insensitive. However, drugs that are highly protein bound but have low extraction ratios are considered capacity limited and binding sensitive. In these cases, even a small change in protein can greatly increase the concentration of free drug in the blood, which can lead to a significant rise in drug metabolism and overall liver clearance. In summary, the effect of protein binding on drug clearance varies depending on whether the drug is flow limited or capacity limited. The biliary system in the liver plays a key role in producing bile and getting rid of certain drugs from the body. Here's how it works in simpler terms, no? Inside the liver, there are small bile ducts that combine to form the common hepatic duct. While bile produced in the liver, again, the bile produced in the liver travels down uh, into these ducts and into the gallbladder, where it becomes more concentrated. When needed, bile flows from the gallbladder through the cystic duct and into the common bile duct, which then empties into small intestine, specifically in your duodenum uh, via your ampulla of Butler. While bile is made up mostly of water, bile salt, bile pigments, electrolytes, and some cholesterols and fatty acids, the cells in the liver that produces bile actively secretes it. There are specific processes for secreting different types of substances such as organic anions, and polar and uncharged molecules. Drugs that are mainly excreted through bile tend to have larger molecular weights, typically over 500. So, ano ba yung naiisip nyo ng mga molecules? So, these are macromolecules, specifically your lipids, no? Those with those weighing between 300 to 500 can be excreted in both urine and bile. So if one route slows down, the other often compensates by increasing excretion. In contrast, drugs weighing less than 300 are usually cleared through the kidney and found in urine. For drugs to be excreted in bile, they typically need to be larger and polar. Many of these drugs are actually metabolites, which means they are product body breaking down, then A common process is the formation of glucuronides, which adds weights and increases polarity to the molecules. Example of drugs that are excreted into bile, including digitalis glycosides, bile salts, cholesterol, steroids, and indomethacin. Some substances can enhance bile production, in turn boost the biliary excretion of drugs. Example, phenobarbital can increase both the formation of glucuronide metabolites and the flow of bile, leading to more drugs being excreted. On the other hand, anything that decreases bile flow, like certain medical conditions such as your cholestasis, will lower how much drug gets excreted through bile. Also, the way a drug is given can affect its excretion. Drugs taken orally might be removed by the liver and excreted into bile more than if they were administered directly into the bloodstream in intravenous route of administration. In animal studies, scientists can measure both the volume of bile and the concentration of drugs in bile using a method called your bile duct cannulation. This involves using a special technique that temporarily blocks a part of the gut with an inflatable balloon, allowing researchers to collect bile directly by monitoring how much drug is secreted into the gastrointestinal fluid. They can track the rate of drug elimination. For humans, researchers assume that average bile flow is about 0.5 to 0.8 milliliters per minute. If they know the concentration of a drug in a bile, they can calculate the biliary clearance using this formula. This one. Okay. Alternatively, they can determine how much drug is eliminated in the bile by measuring the drug in gastrointestinal fluid without needing to know the bile flow rate. And this is now the formula they are used to be used. To get an accurate result, no drug should be administered through a method that avoids the digestive tract, such as IV injection. During these experiments, this helps prevent any complications from unabsorbed drug that might appear in the feces. Researchers have used this method to measure how much digoxin, a heart medication, no, a digoxin is eliminated through bile in humans. When a drug or its breakdown product is released into the bile, it travels from the gallbladder into the duodenum, so the first part of the small intestine, through the common bile duct. Once in the duodenum, the drug or its metabolite can either be eliminated from the body in feces or be reabsorbed back into the bloodstream, making it available for use again. This process of this process of absorbing the drug, excreting it into the bile, and then reabsorbing it is called your enterohepatic circulation. For some drugs that are modified into a form called glucuronide conjugate, the intestine contains bacteria that can break this down back into the original drug using an enzyme called beta glucuronidase. This means that the original drug can then be reabsorbed into the body again. When drug shows up in the feces after being taken by mouth, it can be tricky to figure out if it's there because it was excreted in bile or if it is just wasn't fully absorbed by the body. However, if the drug is given through an injection and later found in feces, it indicates that some of it was indeed excreted into the bile. The excretion of drugs into bile is an active process that can become overwhelming if there are high drug concentration. Additionally, some drugs might compete with each other for the same transport pathway in the liver. The enterohepatic circulation is more significant after taking multiple doses of drug or a very large single dose. With larger amount, more drug is secreted into the bile, and then some of that can be reabsorbed back into the bloodstream. This can influence how quickly the drug is absorbed and eliminated from the body. Sometimes this process can become saturated, which can affect the level of drug in the blood over time. Drugs that go through enterohepatic circulation might cause a second, smaller peak in the drug concentration curve in the blood. The first peak happens as the drug is used up in the digestive system, and the smaller peak appears later when the drug excreted in bile is reabsorbed. There are experiments with animals. No researcher can directly measure the amount of drug in bile by using a technique called, again, your bile duct cannulation. So, estimating how much drug is excreted to bile is less precise and usually based on amount found in the feces. However, with oral drugs, some of the drug in the feces could simply be the part that the body didn't absorb at all. So, useless yung determination of amount of drug found in the feces if it is oral absorption. Kasi hindi mo alam if yung gamot ba na nakita doon sa feces is hindi lang siya na absorb or ininom mo lang, dumaan lang siya sa GI tract at saka lumabas, or talagang na-absorb siya pero nag-recirculate and then nailabas siya via feces. In a basic model for how the liver clears drug, we assume that a person's intrinsic clearance, or how well their liver can process drugs, stays the same for that individual. This model shows that clearance can change based on things like blood flow or the activity of liver enzymes. However, different people may experience variability on how their body handles drug due to several factors. One factor or one factor is the patient factor. Things like age, genetic differences can affect the drug metabolism. Next is drug interaction. Other medication can either enhance or reduce how well the liver enzyme works. And lastly, the transporters. Proteins that help move drugs into and out of the liver cells and bile ducts can also be altered. When a drug relies heavily on these transporters, the simple model may be accurately reflect how the drug behaves in the liver. Instead, more detailed models are needed to track how drug moves within the liver cells. Since the initial development of this model, we've learned a lot about the roles of transporters and liver enzymes in drug processing. Researchers like Wang and others have highlighted the importance of these transporters and their interaction with drugs. Drugs can be categorized to help predict how they behave in the body. For example, a drug is labeled as high permeable, okay? High permeable. They can be labeled as high permeable if 90% of it is absorbed in humans. If there are four classes by a pharmaceutical classification system based on solubility and permeability. Class 1 drugs are easily absorbed because they are both high soluble and permeable. So they aren't much affected by transporter. And class 2 drugs, however, have low solubility but high permeability, making them more influenced by efflux transporters. These transporters can send some of the absorbed drug back in the intestines, leading to lower levels of drug in the bloodstream. They can also pump drugs into bile if they are located in the liver. Understanding these classifications may help predict how drug will be eliminated from the body and how they might interact with other drugs or foods, which is important for ensuring safe and effective treatment. So, this wraps up the second part of our topic. See you See you sa susunod or the last part of this lecture series. Thank you.